Well, hello everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the YANDLES podcast. My name's Dan, and I'll be a host as normal. And today we've got with us Mike Holton, Mike Holton from Handmade Crafts. I thought I'd better just check what the exact title there of the YouTube channel that you're a woodturner under. So Mike has been a woodturner that we've worked with a few times recently. A number of you may have seen his videos on turning grass tree roots. And I think most recently unboxing a Sabre 300 bandsaw from Record Power, which we may discuss later. But Mike, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me, Dan. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Excellent. And so we'll start with the easy one then. How did you get into wood turning?
About 3 years ago, well, just over 3 years ago, my wife bought me a lathe for our anniversary present. We've been married 5 years, and 5 years is wood. And I mentioned to her, quite a few times that I'd love to get back into turning. The only time I've turned before was at school, as most people have. And it's something which I enjoyed back then. And I've been watching a lot of videos off and on. And lo and behold, one day she said, right, I'm going to buy you a lathe for the anniversary. I've never done this, I don't know what I'm looking for. Can we choose it together? And we ended up going for a little tabletop mounted MIDI-sized lathe. And so that was pretty much, that was in January 2001.
Okay.
So 3 years and, we're now May, 4 months, 3 years, 4 months ago.
2001 or 2021?
Sorry, 2021.
I thought COVID had lasted longer for you for a little bit there.
I am number dyslexic, so don't worry.
Oh, okay. Apologies. Okay, so that's pretty good then. So over that 3 year period, so how long before you migrated then to starting to show some of your things on YouTube?
It took a year. It was almost like a leap of faith. But the first turning I was doing was absolutely awful. It's like all of us, you're kind of shaking when you're putting the tool to the piece and you get catches and it's scary. But I got a hang of it. I was watching so many videos on YouTube and I was practicing what I was looking. I'm very much a visual learner. If I can't read instructions and take that and put it into practice. I have to watch somebody do it, and then I can replicate it fairly easily. So I was, dashing into the house, watching a video, back onto the lathe, having a go, and just that kind of iteration of watching, learning, and practicing. I started to get a feel for it, and as soon as I got a feel for it, then I could start letting my imagination get into the pieces I was making. And I'd finish something and I'd run into the house. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? Wonderful, thank you. Put it with the rest, and then I'd back into the garage, and I'd just carry on that way. And eventually, I decided I wonder if people would like to, follow me on this journey. So I started the channel. It was very ropey at the start. If you do go to my channel, don't look, at the first 6 months of work, because it's interesting. I was learning the craft. I'm not only learning the lathe and my craft involved with that, but I was also learning the video editing, the sound recording, all those things that go along with it. And I was trying to find a format that I was comfortable with and that people seem to enjoy. So, I try and shoot these videos as if it's, I'm talking to my best mate who's just sat next to me, and I'm trying to explain to him what I'm doing, what the thought processes are going to my head. I don't try and hide anything. If I get a catch, we'll stop and we'll explain, why did I get the catch? What did I do wrong? And then we move on. So it's all, open and honest. And if I make a mess, I nearly swore then, if I, muck up, then, we talk about why. I'm not trying to prove I'm the best or anything like that. I'm just enjoying what I do. And just, I'm so glad that other people seem to enjoy it as well.
Well, I think that definitely comes across, that you're enjoying what you're doing, but also the fact that you are, I would imagine, deliberately trying to push yourself and do things that are different. Both also to maintain interest from the kind of the viewer base, but also to make sure that you keep pushing yourself forward and you're not just turning another bowl of a standard shape and maybe, doing something slightly different with it.
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, finding something like a grass tree root and playing with that's not a beginner project.
No, no, I paid an absolute fortune for that. I got into a bidding war on eBay, and I didn't tell my wife at the time how much I ended up paying for it. And then this turned, and if you just pick one up, it's an ugly looking thing. And I've got to try and turn this into something which is appealing. And the first cut I made in it, I was scared to death because I paid all of this money. I thought, what if I get a catch? What if it breaks?
Yeah.
It was kind of like a leap of faith. But this is what I love about woodturning. This is what I love most in what I do, which sounds a little bit arrogant, but I love to get out of my comfort zone. I love to put myself in a position where at the start, I don't know if I'm going to succeed or if I'm going to fail. All right. Because a lot of people can't deal with failure. I have no problem with it. Everything that I've managed to do, I am so grateful for this opportunity to do that if I fail, then I think, right, I've learned. And I can take that and, try again. If that makes any sense. I'm not one for, right, I know I can do this well, so I'll just keep on doing that. I've got, on my computer, I've got a list on Notepad of ideas I want to try. I've got a whiteboard to the side here with little sketches and ideas of things that, I want to have a go at. And I'll pick one and then I'll research it, figure out how I'm going to do it, because, half the things on these lists, I have no idea if it can be done. One of my very, very early pieces, I was taking the dogs for a walk and I found a slate that had come off someone's roof. I thought, I wonder if I can embed that into a bowl somehow,
right,
or into a work, into a vase or something like that. So on my very early videos, the one I've told you not to watch, you'll see me trying to insert this piece of slate, which is a stupid idea. It's one of the most ridiculously terrible ideas I've ever had. But we have a go at it. It kind of did turn out. It turned into more of an obelisk. I didn't hollow it out because it would just shatter. But it's this point of, nobody's going to tell me something can't be done. I want to find out myself if it can or can't be done. I mean, just on the back here, I've got a bowl made out of a piece of aluminium. I thought, can you turn aluminium? So I went and bought a billet. And yes, you can. Don't. Because it takes so long and the sound drives you crazy as you're going through. But, it can be done.
So on the metal shavings from the aluminium, then were they nice and sharp once you were?
Oh yeah, I had to wear gloves on that one because it did get a bit spiky.
Yeah,
but that's my whole philosophy. Sorry, carry
on. Go on.
No, so this is my whole philosophy. I don't mind getting, well, nobody wants to get hurt, but I keep myself as safe as I can, and I wear, as good equipment as I can, and I just try and do it. And it's that trying that makes you more confident to try something else. Some of the early winged bowls I had have had pieces, like 16 inches spinning around like a propeller. And, as long as you keep your eye on your knuckles, you can get past it. But, the first few times you do it, it's an interesting experience, shall we say.
Yeah, well, it's when you get comfortable turning one side and then you finish, you go, oh, that was nice. And then you realize you've got to flip it over and start again on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed you've got one of the Mallee Burr kind of projects in the background as well.
Oh,
and that's always a timber that looks stunning, but because it's so dense, can be quite off-putting to people for playing around with as well. So that one must have been something that was an interesting challenge to begin with.
Yes, I mean, it started off with this top piece, and I wanted to make it a very, very what's the word? I wanted to make it a very, very simplistic small bowl. And I had an idea to make a stand out of a piece of bog oak. And I started it, and the bog oak flew apart, unfortunately. So I then remembered that I had this other piece of mallee bill, and I thought, well, I'll make them fit together. So
Yeah.
this is one of those experimental pieces. I had no idea at the start how it was going to look at the end. I'm still not quite sure if I like it, but it's
Yeah.
here now. It's done. And it's interesting. It's a talking point, but it's just another one of those, I don't know if it'll work, but let's give it a go and we can find out.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, as I said earlier, the feeling you get from your videos is you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun, but you're pushing those boundaries, and I think that's good. It keeps interest in the craft, makes people realise that whilst definitely there is a traditional and a good reason for there being a traditional side of practicality and tool making and all of that kind of stuff, that you can also explore other things and be a lot more artistic if you want to. And if you're not restricted because it's not for a commission, then
exactly.
you can. Your limitation is yourself, is your own. If you have a physical limitation or if you have a personal sort of limitation, that's the only things that are stopping you, other than the safety aspect of it. Fantastic. So this is after only really sort of 3 years of turning, and like you say, coming back to it after many years in between, which is, as you mentioned, a common story.
I mean, I did my GCSE or O level, as it was at the time, in woodwork, and normally people made tables and chairs. I made a chess set.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a shocking woodworker. I am awful. If you asked me to do a dovetail joint or something like that, it wouldn't work. I just can't. I can't. With enough practice, I could probably get away with it and do it. But it's that fine precision that kind of mucks me up. I can't measure to save my life. I can't. If you'll see some of the pieces I put together, I'll do a segmented bowl and put the pieces I've cut together and expect it to be a square, and it's way off. And I end up making a nice oblong bowl instead. So one day I hope to do more woodwork, proper stuff. But at the moment, I'm quite happy enjoying what I'm doing.
Well, that's just it. I think people forget that woodwork is a broad spectrum term, isn't it? It covers exactly. Joiners, carpenters, cabinet makers, carving, wood turning, all of the stuff. So that's definitely fine. So do you do this full time then? That's something that I'm not sure people realise.
This is my hobby, my passion. This is what gets me out of the house and all the kids, and just my time to be alone with my thoughts and my craft. I suppose that's what's most freeing about this. I have the utmost respect for commercial turners because it's a very, very hard industry, and those guys have to get through so much quantity in order to make a decent living out of it. But I'm in a situation where when I go into my workshop, I'm free to do anything I want to do. I don't have to think, right, I've got to make this piece for this client, or I've got to make something which I know will sell. I can think about, well, no, can I do this? Is this possible? And I don't necessarily need something at the end of it in order to sell, in order to fund my pastime. And that's a very freeing thing. I'm not having to constantly produce things which I think are commercially viable. So I'm free to do one-offs, and I'm free to have an idea and then start producing a series of pieces along a certain idea as I'm experimenting and improving, and then completely change direction onto something else. If people like it, then I'm very, very grateful, and I'm so grateful to the kind of fan base I've got together, where people feel free that they can be totally honest with me. I have no problem with honesty. I have no problem with criticism. As long as it's respectful, you can say anything you want. If people are rude, then fine, then they can just go and do one. But if people are honest and offer me constructive criticism and are valuable, I'll take anybody's opinion. I have no problem with that. The things I do, I've questioned myself sometimes if things were a good idea, but it's part of art or craft or whatever.
So, Mike, do you have any other hobbies, or is wood turning kind of all consuming now for your spare time?
At the moment, it's wood turning is it. If I was to suggest to my wife that I came up with another hobby, then I think we may have words. I think she may have words. I've always done things throughout my life. I've done a bit of knife making, which was interesting, but very unsuccessful. I've played a lot of baseball. I've done lots of other sports. But at the moment, as soon as my wife bought me that first lathe, then that was pretty much it. I was hooked.
Excellent. Okay. Well, it's because it's always interesting to hear how much other people have it. Obviously, in our previous episode with Mark, he does this as his kind of full-time thing. So the fact that this isn't full-time, that's fair enough. Do you mind us asking what it is you do then as the day job? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm a university lecturer at a local university. I've been there, 22 years, which is
Okay.
a reasonable length of time.
Yeah, certainly for lecturing. And what subject do you lecture
in computer game design.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah, before I started there, I was working in the games industry for about 8 years.
Okay. Anything popular that people may know?
Now, this is the problem because my students who are currently in the ages of 18 to 23 area, I started lecturing when they were born. So the games I made were all before they were born. My biggest claim to fame for anybody who's older, like you and me, or I think I'm going to even be your father, I'm not quite sure. But my biggest claim to fame was I was the external producer to release Sega.
You buffered just at that point where you said Sega.
Oh, sorry, Sega Rally 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right. It was my job to release that. Yeah, I released that it was my job to release that into Europe. So I was the main go-between our company, which was Empire Interactive, and Sega in Japan. So that was the biggest game I've ever worked on. I've worked on a few other games. I worked on a few golf games. I think I've got about 17 titles to my name, but unfortunately, all a very long time ago.
Well, it's still good to have that history and that talking point, and to be aware of differences, because those skill sets will always come across into your creativity, into the way you can work with things. Certainly with your YouTube channel, won't they?
Yeah, it's all down to creative thought. The processes aren't that different. You've got to find elements that will sit together and play nicely together, that are appealing in some way, no matter what, the senses they're appealing to. So, design's design. It's, you can call it what you want, but across all different spectrums, it's all very, very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, if we steer it back towards the tools and things like that.
Yes.
So, this is where the podcast could take quite a long term. We won't ask what your favorite tool is, because that's a very difficult question to answer. I always find it depends on what it is you're making. But do you have a favorite finish or a favorite something in the workshop? It's your go-to, it's your thing that maybe you're known for using the most, or you've kind of unintentionally become favorite.
My half-inch record power bowl gouge. It's like an extension of my own arm now.
Yeah.
I think I've worn out a couple. I'm on my third, and
you've worn out 2 in 3 years. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Bad grinding mainly. But no, it's something which it's like a well-fitting glove. It's something that feels as comfortable in my hand as anything else. I can do almost anything with it. I was thinking about releasing a video on, like a one-tool video, a one-tool bowl, where you can do everything with one tool, because this tool, I feel that I can, it's as an extension of me as anything else is. But tools, as tools just do a job. You have a few basics that you rely on, and a lot of them are kind of they just do an extra job if you get yourself into a difficult situation. I've got some very, very long hollowing tools. If I'm finding myself so far from the bottom of a bowl that I can't get in with the gouge to try and get out the bottom a few bits. So, I've got a few other tools which I love using, but, in all cases, it all comes back to this bowl gouge.
Half-inch bowl gouge. So which, have you got traditional grind, fingernail grind?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose it is fairly standard. I use a Pro Grind system, and it just comes out, it says standard grind.
Okay.
I did when I was very much younger. Not very much younger. God, I've only doing this 3 years. But when in my early days, I was watching an awful lot of videos and people like Jim Sprague from Sprague's Jim Sprague's, was it Sprague's Workshop? And he loves a fingernail grind. And I thought, I have to have a fingernail grind. So I bought a bowl gouge with a fingernail grind, not really knowing at the time that I could just ground it myself.
Yeah.
And I was horrible with it. And I keep on going back to it every now and then. And apart from a few shear cuts, it's kind of pointless to me. I don't get it. I don't need it. I don't really use it. It doesn't do anything that I can't do with my standard grind on my beloved gouge. So
that's fair enough.
Yeah, I think as long as the only thing that seems to matter to me is being able to grind, put a grind on a gouge consistently, so I can use it every single day and not notice any different. If I was doing the grind by hand or whatever, and that was constantly changing, then you're always going to run into problems. So I'm quite sure that if I had started off with a fingernail grind, I would now be, swearing blind that the fingernail grind is the only one to have. But because I started off with a standard grind, it's as natural to me as anything else. And until I have an absolute need, or somebody with far more sense and ability than me comes along and shows me how to do it properly and what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing wrong with this fingernail grind, then I'm quite happy to live where I live.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that it just whatever you're comfortable with, really. There are pros and cons in either direction, but I think when you've been turning for as many hours as you've clearly clocked up, then whatever works, as long as you're safe. That's the important thing, and
keep
getting
yourself safe
consistent
and
grind
make
on the
sure
tool.
you can put that grind on that device. Every single time, and keep it sharp. There's no, if your tool's not sharp, there's no way that you're gonna be happy turning and get good cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of your most recent videos was part one of the Sabre 300, the unboxing of the Sabre 300.
Yeah, part two is out now as well.
Oh, it is out now as well, is it?
Yes.
It is. Okay. I poor research on my behalf. I do apologise.
That's shocking. Yes, I am appalled.
But for those of you who have undernard about the new bandsaw from Record Power, I can definitely recommend going and watching Mike's video. Leave him a little like and a comment on there as well, because I know that helps them there. But let them know that you went and watched it based on watching this video or listening to us. What's your overall thoughts then on the bandsaw? Obviously, you clearly like it, but do you wish you'd gone for a bigger one?
Yes and no. When it first came to me, I was still in my old workshop.
Okay.
And there was no room for a bigger one. But before I actually managed to get it put together, I was upended and forced out into our new building, into our new home, and I do have more room. So I could have possibly had a bigger one, but that's only kind of vanity, for only vanity's sake, to say that I've got a 350 or a 400 or something like that. There is not much that I'm not going to be able to do with that 300. As you haven't watched the second one yet. Even using the basic blade, I managed to get through. I put it through its paces. I make some cuts first of all through some 2-inch oak. Didn't even blink. This is with a standard blade that comes with the machine. Didn't even blink an eye. I turned this slab of oak on its side, which is about 5 inches thick. Put that through. Didn't blink an eye. I did the same with a piece of yew, which is slightly harder. And then I got a 6-inch 6-inch by 2-inch piece of Angelique. I don't know if you're familiar with Angelique.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a wood which is twice as hard as yew, and more than twice as hard as oak. And first of all, I cut it across the grain, 2 inches, didn't bat an eye. So I then put it on its end and took a rip through 6 inches of Angelique. Now, Angelique is over 3,000 on the Janka scale. Even with a standard blade that came to the machine, I managed to get all the way through it. Wasn't the cleanest cut I've ever done, but it got through it, which I was a little bit amazed at. And that's, so I know the depth of cut on that machine's 10 inches. So I can quite happily put through half a 10-inch log without even thinking about it. And that's just the standard blade. That's before I even start messing around and upgrading to some of the Starrett blades, which are
the Starrett blades. The Starrett blades, for those of you who've got a bandsaw, if you're particularly Sabre 300 and Sabre 350, I think the Sabre 450, my mind slips at the moment. Now, Sabre 300 and Sabre 350, we at YANDLES sell Starrett blades for, and they are a precision ground tooth blade that's also polished. So if you held them up next to each other, the clear difference is the standard blades, which work fine, but they kind of look blacky, bluey, and they've not cleaned the blade after the process. And so if you were cutting through something like you're talking about the Angelique, which is quite a dense timber or quite resinous, it can sort of start to heat up and bind on that blade. Whereas the Starrett blades are polished, and all the teeth have been precision ground, so they're exactly the same length and the same pitch and everything else. And so they're just that next level. They are a premium blade, and you're getting what you pay for very much on those blades. I'm very fortunate. I've got the same. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I'd look at them. So I was going to buy a set of blades, and I've got one 19-inch Starrett blade, 19 millimeter Starrett blade there, which I'm dying to get on to see what it does. But I had a look on the website earlier on, and I'm going to order the set of blades, the Starrett blades package, which I think you've got on there, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. Yeah. They're very popular, and they just make a lot of difference. I mean, if all you're doing is cutting bowl blanks out of 2-inch sycamore, then you're probably not really required. But if you're wanting to rip veneer or go through some really dense stuff and all of that kind of thing, then there's very little those blades won't do. And they're definitely a kind of a secret weapon with your machine, which has already got the power and the adjustment and everything on it in the Sabre series. So yeah, absolutely. Well, that sounds fantastic. Is there anything you want to particularly shout out? Have you got any upcoming video or anything that isn't released yet that you want to sort of tease on this?
Well, there's half a bucket of, I think it's the bucket was from chicken pellets, and in there there's some Jarrah pearl, which I got from you guys.
Australian Jarrah.
Yeah, so that's sitting in some resin at the moment, curing, and that'll be the next video coming out hopefully next week, as long as it cures in time. So hold out for that on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. The videos will be coming out.
Next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Lovely. Well, I'll have a chat to our IT guy and make sure that he puts any short clips in the right order, and we'll go from there. Mike, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and you're obviously very passionate about this, and I'm sure we could speak for a lot longer on the subject as well.
I'm sure.
But there's maybe next year we'll do a revisit on the next season or something, and we can talk again. But lovely. Thank you very much for your time. And for those of you listening, have a look on our channel. We're aiming to do one of these a month at the moment. And if you've got any particular guests you would like us to interview, we've already had requests for Emma Cook, the Tiny Turner, and also for Emmett Kane from Ireland. So they are potentially on the list. But any other suggestions, give us a shout. Mike, yourself, if there's anyone in particular you think we should interview or chat to, who do you reckon?
Will Kenny.
Sorry?
William Kenny.
William Kenny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a look at his channel. He's such a nice guy, and he produces some absolutely beautiful things.
Excellent. Well, we'll add him to the list as well. We'll have a chat and we'll see where we go from there. Mike, lovely to chat to you, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Dan. Cheers. Thank you.